Isaiah Bond. And I got news for you. Just watching 2 days of practice, Isaiah Bond better watch out for Silas Bolden, because Silas Bolden does everything professionally, runs from drill to drill. When he gets tackled, he gets up and runs to the end zone. Like, he does all the things that Ricky Williams used to do, that the greats do. They always see themselves going to the end zone. You know, if you ever watch Ricky Williams practice, he'd get whistled dead, you know, whether they were thudding or tackling, and then he would just run all the way to the end zone. And, you know, the greats think that way. And Silas Bolden does everything like with hustle. And Isaiah Bond kind of, he strides, you know. I mean, I listen, Isaiah Bond may be the best receiver in the country. I'm just saying Silas Bolden is putting on a show, and he does all the little things that tell you he's invested and doesn't think he's too good to outrun his teammates from drill to drill and, you know, get up and run to the end zone after every play. So these are good things to have. Crying from a yacht. You got all these receivers. The proof is going to come in the actions. Who's making plays? Who's earning the trust of the coaches? I mean, that's what it's going to come down to, Zay. It's going to come down to, does Steve Sarkeesian trust you to be where you're supposed to be, to understand the offense the way it's supposed to be understood, to have good rapport with teammates, to do the dirty work? And I just think Silas Bolden's going to make it hard for them to keep him off the field.
Yeah, all we've heard is good things about Silas Bolden. And, you know, the Isaiah Bond, I wouldn't look too deep into that. You know, some guys, they just aren't practice guys. You know, they need the bright lights to come on to really show out. And I'm not saying Isaiah Bond's even that guy. You know, he just started training camp. But the fact that Silas Bolden is doing all of those, as you say, you know, championship level things, great player things, hey, that's just kind of where he's come from. I mean, Rancho Cucamonga wasn't the biggest guy, wasn't that highly touted.
Although CJ Stroud was his high school quarterback.
Yeah, I know. So he's played around elite players for a long time, and he's looking at this as an opportunity to really showcase his talent on the biggest stage in the best conference in the nation, to hopefully get some serious love once the 2025 draft comes around. So, yeah, just the fact that he's so versatile. I mean, he doesn't play like he's 5'8", and Steve Sarkeesian talked about that in his last press conference. Like, he's fearless. He'll go, you know, those middle routes, those crossing routes. He's willing to lower his head and try to get extra yardage, even though he might be $160 soaking wet at 5'8". So when you have guys like that, it's infectious for not only the wide receiver room, but for the whole team. And Xavier Worthy, he did a good job bringing that last year. I think Isaiah Bond could be very similar to that.
Yeah, and the Oregon State receiver, I just looked it up, who was drafted ahead of him, was a guy named Anthony Gould. And I'm looking up his numbers. They had very similar numbers. It's really weird. And they're kind of built the same. Like, Anthony Gould, I think, is 5'8". And so, yeah, Bolden was the leading receiver on the team. He had 54 catches for 746 yards, 5 touchdowns. And they were both seniors last year. And Anthony Gould, 44 catches, 718 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Gould was selected in the 6th round. And I think that Silas Bolden heard the projections for him, that it was going to be late like Anthony Gould, and said, "Nah, let me go play for Steve Sarkeesian and increase my stock." And obviously Silas Bolden finished up his degree And it's weird because Oregon State's on the quarter system. So it meant that he had to go to class longer to finish his degree, or he could have cut and had to take basically another semester or more at Texas to graduate. And he was like, no, I'm just going to finish these classes I've got. I'm on the quarter system. It's going to mean I can't enroll in January, but I'm going to, and he had no intentions of leaving Oregon State, even though the Pac-12 collapsed. He wasn't leaving until Jonathan Smith left to go become the head coach at Michigan State. And then when Jonathan Smith was like, hey, come to Michigan State, he's like, let me see what my options are. And as soon as this is a kid who got recruited by nobody coming out of high school except Oregon State and, a handful of San Jose State. I mean, it wasn't much. And he was going to stay. But Jonathan Smith took the Michigan State job. So he's like, okay, I'll get in the portal. And then all of a sudden, everybody wanted him. And he's like, ooh, I see what A.D. Mitchell did there. Let me see what I can do. Yeah. So he's betting on himself, Zay. And I love what I'm seeing from that guy because he is all hustle. That is great for that room. I'm telling you right now, the grittiness of Jordan Whittington is coming through, and Silas Bolden, and from what I hear, Matthew Golden. So, maybe Isaiah Bond, Worthy. I don't want to put something on Isaiah Bond because Worthy, would kind of prance a little bit, but he was always the first one at practice and he worked his ass off and he got rewarded with a first round pick to the Kansas City Chiefs. So I want to see Isaiah Bond light it up because he's certainly capable. We know that. He's a legend in Alabama football for that 4th and goal from the 31 catch to beat Auburn. They're going to talk about that play for decades from now because of that rivalry and seconds left and Bama comes from behind and wins and then goes on to win the SEC and goes to the college football playoff. And that all was perpetuated or continued because of that play. That play is partially responsible for Texas going to the college football playoff because it was Texas's win over Alabama that got them in. And if Alabama had lost 2 games, then the win over Alabama doesn't look as good. Yeah. Instead, they'd only lost to Texas. So Isaiah Bond can get it done. But, man, this receiving core, because Jonte Cook is getting after it. DeAndre Moore. I mean, these guys all are fighting for jobs and playing time. And Aaron Butler's getting looks at different roles on special teams, and he looks invested. And Ryan Niblett looks good. I mean, we never talk about Ryan Niblett, and that dude's one of the fastest guys on the team.
Man.
So, yeah, this is – and Sark talked about this a little bit on day one. He said, my challenge is to narrow it down. And, how Texas has been able to hold on, and I'm not, trying to put stuff in the atmosphere, but he's been able to hold on to players. And this will be a real testament. I mean, people who are sweating losing to Corey and Moore, Texas is okay. You're okay, Texas. You got a room full of studs, room full of future NFL players at that receiver position. So you're going to be all right. And if you end up with, Khalid Lockett or Jamie French, you get a 5-star on top of all that talent, because who's the senior in that group? Silas Bolden. That's it. Everyone else is coming back. I mean, they're draft eligible, so maybe they're not coming back. But that's going to be fun, Zay. I mean, there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, and we know Sark, loves going, 12 personnel, having 2 tight ends out there. You might look to go to some 10 personnel, maybe at times even 0 personnel. Like have 5 wide receivers out there because there's so many guys that can make plays happen. And Amari Niblack with his vertical game, like he'll be playing on that outside as a receiver probably at times too. So the playbook could even expand more. Like we know Sark's playbook is complex to begin with, but just to put all that talent out there because you have so many guys that are capable, you might want to throw more receivers out there and see what happens there and push the ball down the field. And with a new headset, you can pick up the tempo. I know some people might think the headset might make it more of a, NFL huddle type of game, but I think you could be able to pick up the tempo if your quarterback and whoever the play caller is, which for Texas obviously is Steve Sarkeesian, are in sync and have the best chemistry. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
You can play Isaiah Bond. You could literally put whoever your top 3 of your rotation is. Let's say it's Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, and either Silas Bolden or Jonte Cook in the opener. Play him for a series, and then don't play him the rest of the game. Play all the other guys and have all kinds of new wrinkles that you haven't shown ready for Michigan. I mean, that's how much depth they have at both receiver and tight end, because the way Jeff Banks was talking, it's Amari Niblack, but it's also Juan Davis. And for Gunnar Helm, it's Gunnar Helm, but it's also, Spencer Shannon and Jordan Washington, the freshman. Jordan Washington is going to play this year. Like, you didn't see Spencer Shannon or Will Randall at all last year. And JT Sanders, or Juan Davis for that matter, JT Sanders was playing on one leg. The other guys weren't ready. They weren't something. And the coaches didn't think they were ready. Now they do. Jeff Banks, the way he was talking about Juan Davis, he's like, Juan Davis will knock the crap out of you coming through the A gap. Okay, we're good. Juan Davis is ready. Get his ass in there. And if Amari Niblack is, struggling in the transition, it sounds like Juan Davis is ready to go. So, yeah, I think you're going to see it all, Zay. I think you're going to see 12, 11, 10 personnel. Sark's going to have to be on his A game because he's got options. And it's like the guy who's got 2 or 3 girls at the bar. It's 150. And he's got to make the right choice. Who's going to go home with me? Who's going to say yes? I got to pick the right one. I got to trust my instincts.
Yeah.
Sark's got those, Sark knows what he's doing. Man averaged 48 points a game in a national championship season in the SEC.
Yeah. Trust the instincts, man. You ask one of them, hey, what that mouth do? Whichever one can let you know. That's the one you take home, damn it. What are we talking about here?
I just walk up to that. And what's that mouth doing later?
What's that?